All right, so on the screen, you see one of the more important documents that we have to obtain during the audit. In fact, important enough that we cannot complete the audit without it, and that's the letter of representation from management. Now, the auditor is responsible for creating the document and determining what needs to be included, and then it has to be signed off on by the CFO, CAO, someone with high-level authority who can make and basically sign behind the representations provided. Now, as we go through the letter here, and you'll notice there's kind of three broad sections. There's an introductory section, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on. What we are going to focus more on are the actual representations themselves, and they're in two broad categories. Starting on page 1, you saw the financial statements. Those are items 1 through 8, and then the information provided covered in points 9 through 16. What I'm going to do is highlight broad categories, and we'll note which items on the list satisfy those requirements. All right, so the first most basic item is representation regarding the financial statements as a whole. And you'll note we're highlighting here, that's item number 1. That's where management says, yep, the audit engagement laid out for us our responsibilities, inclusive of preparation and presentation of the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. Now, the next pair of representations both relate to internal control. The first one is internal control about the financial statements and the preparation of those statements, that they are free of material misstatement. The third deals with the same internal control, but in this case, dealing with the prevention and detection of fraud. Now, recall that one of the items that's specifically called out in the actual audit report is the idea that there are estimates made by management. Frankly, anything that we see is important enough to mention in the body of the audit report stands to reason we'd want to get it in writing from management, and that's the point number 4. That's dealing with estimates that basically management's saying, we think that the estimates and the assumptions behind those estimates are reasonable. All right, as we continue, the next one is actually a pair of representations, one in the financial statement category, one in the information provided category related to related parties. So number 5 denotes that RPTs, related party transactions and relationships, have been accounted for and disclosed in accordance with GAAP. And then the last point, point number 16, is an acknowledgement that they've disclosed all known related parties, relationships, and transactions to the auditors. The next item, an important one, is related to subsequent events. And again, this is related to our prime audit procedures. So this is item number 6, where we note, or I should say management notes, that anything that was subsequent to the financial statement date, but that GAAP requires either adjustment or disclosure, have been appropriately adjusted or disclosed. The next representation deals with one of the concluding items of the audit, that is, which proposed adjustments were not posted and recorded by management. Management must then acknowledge that those misstatements are not material taken individually or in the aggregate to the financial statements as a whole, and typically a listing of those is included as an attachment to the rep letter. All right, the last item mentioned in the financial statement section, but also mentioned in information provided, relates to litigation, claims, and assessments. And we're just going to abbreviate that here as L, C, and A. So the first one, point 8, basically says any known or possible litigation and claims have been accounted for and disclosed in accordance with GAAP. And then point 15 is basically management saying, we've let you know about any known or potential litigation claims or assessments. Now, the next one we're going to call completeness, but I call it's in there. It's the management's assertion that everything that happened is in the financials, and everything you needed to complete your audit, we gave to you, whether that was a document, whether that was access to personnel, anything and everything like that, we gave it to you, open book. All right, the next representation is a critical one. That's fraud. So this is where management, over 3 different points, acknowledges that first, that they have disclosed the results of their fraud risk assessment. Second, that they are unaware of any fraud or suspected fraud involving management, significant role employees, or other impacts that could be material to the financials. And 13, we're frankly not aware of any other allegations or knowledge of fraud that could impact the financial statements. All right, finally is laws and regulations. And this, again, is just them acknowledging if we have knowledge or suspect any non-compliance that's relevant to the financial statements, we've disclosed that to you. Now, again, this is a document first and foremost to protect the auditor. So the auditor has discretionary power to put whatever they feel is important enough to get in writing. The list here you could see as a pretty reasonable baseline. You would be hard-pressed to find a rep letter that didn't include all of the items we just went through, but many would include more.